Hold on. Good morning. There we go. I replaced my computer, and again, this is like my fourth live session where I had mic issues. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Bitcoin and cryptocurrency news. I am George. Happy Friday. Today is certainly a good day. 11,071, not too shabby for Bitcoin. We're finally above 11,000 once again. This whole past week, and actually more like past 2 to 3 weeks, Bitcoin has been just kind of stagnant, not doing much, hovering between 10,500, 10,800-ish. Finally, we broke above, and that's because there's big news today. Jack Dorsey and Square bought $50 million worth of Bitcoin. But why? You know, what are the after effects of this? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about. So thanks for tuning in. As always, hit the like or smash up the like, subscribe to the channel, and let's do this. And of course, today's Friday. We're going to have a long Q&A session for those of you guys that have questions or you just want to chat because you don't want to work. I'm okay with that. So thanks for tuning in, guys. All right, so starting with Bitcoin, 11,064, not too shabby. We did have a pretty significant bump this morning, right? Up to 10,900, and then another small little bump. So now we're above 11,000. And we zoom out a little bit here. Bitcoin has been going pretty sideways, like I said, for the last 2 to 3 weeks, right? But that's okay because it's holding above 10,000. That's what we want, right? It's been going sideways, and usually when Bitcoin goes sideways for a while like this, that's when it's gearing up for the next leg up. And I don't know if this is that time or we have to wait a little longer. But anyways, any positive traction at this point is good, brings a little excitement. But of course, today's big news is Jack Dorsey and Square. This is really no surprise. Jack Dorsey, a big Bitcoin bull. He believes in Bitcoin becoming the digital currency that the internet needs right now. There's not anything that could replace fiat at this point, right? And although he hasn't really publicly came out and said, you know, he distrusts the banks and fiat and all this stuff, but he has come out and says, you know what, the internet does need a digital currency, and that is Bitcoin, right? So he himself says he does dollar cost averaging. I forgot what he said, if it's every week or every month, but I believe he buys 1 Bitcoin every time. I think it's 1 Bitcoin per week. So he's buying like 4 Bitcoin himself personally. But now Square put down 1% of their assets or reserves. So 1%, which means they have 500 million, but 50 million of that is going to Bitcoin as a reserve currency. They're not really doing anything with it. They're just holding it, you know, as an insurance policy, really, in case if Bitcoin goes up, it's great for the company. In case fiat deflates and inflation happens, the economy doesn't do too well, he's going to use that BTC basically as a hedge against that. So that's what it is. Really, it's no surprise. I mean, Jack Dorsey is such a big bull, but ever since microservice came out and said they were basically dumping all their money into Bitcoin, it kind of started a thing, right? I think Jack was kind of hesitant to make this kind of move before, but MicroStrategy, I thought they mentioned him in here. Maybe not. But here, this article. Jumping the gun a little bit, but MicroStrategy, I've talked about in the past, they have nothing to do with Bitcoin, okay? They're a business intelligence firm, and all of a sudden they said they were purchasing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And then they decided to buy even more. So they bought in total close to $500 million worth of Bitcoin. So basically they turned their entire company into one gigantic Bitcoin play. They put 100% of their reserves, right? And in terms of how the market reacted, actually pretty positive. MicroStrategy's stock actually shot up because of the news, right? So it kind of opened the door, opened the floodgates. And I think Square, is not going to be the last company that's going to be publicly announcing this. There's going to be a lot more companies in the future that's just really uncertain right now, right? They don't really know what's going to happen with the elections coming up, with COVID still rampant. They just don't know, right? And of course, everyone's fearing inflation, whether or not it happens, but there's fear of it. So I think we're going to hear a lot more companies in the future saying they go stake and buy X amount of Bitcoin that is going into reserve. So this is very positive indeed. And that is why Bitcoin got a little boost this morning, because a lot of people like this kind of news, right? Why wouldn't you like this kind of news? If you're a Bitcoin bug, you're a Bitcoin bull, of course you want to hear this, right? So, of course, the biggest Bitcoin bear at the moment, Peter Schiff, he had something to say about it. He did not like this move at all. So, all right, so here's his tweet. Bitcoin spiked 4% on news that Square invested 50 million, 1% total asset into Bitcoin, but that has already taken place. Speculators are betting the announcement will attract new buyers. The real news is Square's buying failed to push Bitcoin above its 2019 high. You know, like, I found this on Reddit, and reading through the comments, you know, Peter is just like, I think he knows what he's doing, right? At this point, we know he knows what he's doing. He's doing this on purpose because he knows he's going to get a lot of Bitcoiners, commenting like, you don't know what you're talking about, and right? He knows exactly what he's doing at this point. I swear, he has more Bitcoin followers than his gold followers, and like every other tweet is about Bitcoin. But yeah, so he's going to continue this strategy. It's kind of like those of you guys that watch sports or sport debate shows. Like my favorite one is Undisputed with Skip Bayless. And it's what he does with LeBron, right? He knows people tune in to hear him bash LeBron. And people disagree with him, but they still tune in because he talks about LeBron. It's kind of the same thing that Peter is doing right now. He knows... He knows people don't like him and his views on Bitcoin, but he continues to do it anyways, and he's actually gaining his viewership or his followers because of what he's doing. So I think at this point, he knows what he's doing. But anyways, this relates to this article. So why didn't, if Square's buy, which already did happen, but because positive new Bitcoin went up, right? But how come a bigger buy like MicroStrategy's 423 million didn't move Bitcoin's price? So that's a good question, because I always hear people ask me this in the comments, like, okay, if there's such a big buy, why didn't it drive things up? Number one, most likely they're doing it through OTC, not through the exchanges, but that's not the only thing. Number two is there actually is a strategy involved, okay? And people were asking the CEO of MicroStrategy, like, hey, how did you do this? Because this is a ton of Bitcoin, and how can you buy that much without affecting it? Because as a buyer, think about it, if you were trying to buy $423 million worth of Bitcoin, you don't want the price to go up while you're buying, right? Why would you? Then it's not advantageous for you. You actually will probably want to see it fall a little bit while you're buying so you can buy a little more, but you don't want to see Bitcoin start pumping when you're trying to buy $423 million with it, because then you're going to end up with less Bitcoin. So there's like a very strategic thing. There's like kind of like a cat and mouse game, and you have to hide your transactions, and you have to do it very secretively. I guess secret, that's not even a word, but you know what I'm saying. You have to do it in secret, right? So Michael Saylor, who is the CEO of MicroStrategy, right? He tweeted this out. To acquire roughly 17,000 Bitcoin, we traded continuously for 74 hours. So over a course of multiple days, executing 88,617 trades. Okay. This is the type, this is how they did it. So they're not doing one gigantic $425 million buy. Okay. So they executed almost 90,000 trades, roughly about 0.2 BTC every 3 seconds. Okay? And basically, you know the rest. Okay? You can do the math. This is the type of strategy they're doing. Because if you have a large whale, you're buying it, you don't actually want it to go up, right? So this is how they're doing it. Now, the flip side, I know if you're like a bear, you're like, okay, well, if they could do this and the price is not moving up, what's the point? Well, you got to think about it, right? Bitcoin is very scarce. And it's gonna get more scarce, right? You got a lot of the insiders, holders that's just holding, right? There's still new Bitcoins being mined, but we know that is decreasing, right? All this is adding up to something. It's really adding up to something, okay? At some point, when FOMO truly hits, if Bitcoin really becomes the digital currency of the internet like Jack Dorsey thinks, or you got a lot more companies now that's looking to buy Bitcoin to store as a reserve, at some point, you can't hide it anymore. Even if you did stuff like this, the market cannot just eat it up. There's just not going to be enough sellers. And when that time comes, that's when things will go to the moon, right? What we're all waiting for, Bitcoin to be above 100,000, possibly go to 1 million someday. A lot of smart people are talking about it. They all think it's going to come within the next 5 to 10 years, which really isn't too long if you think about it. Yeah, so it's going to be harder and harder and harder for this kind of stuff to happen, right? So if you just keep focused on the fact that there's just really not that much Bitcoin out there, floating Bitcoin, I should say, and even the non-floating, the ones that are being held, you look at the total out there, there's only 18 million. There's only 18 million. And out of the 18 million, 18.5 million, we know like 30% of that is already lost. So if you look at the total out there, the total circulating supply, it's actually very, very little if you want to spread around the world, right? So those of us that are in it, companies that are starting to get in it, we're still getting in early. Even though Bitcoin is at 11,000, this is still considered early because if it truly gets adopted, think about 8 billion people all wanting a piece of the pie, then it's going to be a different story. So that is the reason why MicroStrategy didn't cause Bitcoin to go up, and probably the reason why Square's buy didn't go up, because they're very smart about it. They hide it. They do 1 million transactions to hide it so that it doesn't fluctuate while they're buying. Otherwise, it hurts them in a way, right? So, yeah. But anyways, both moves are very positive. I don't think this is going to be the end of it. We're going to hear a lot more companies in the future that is going to be doing similar things. Maybe not buying as much, but why wouldn't they want to put some of their reserves in something like Bitcoin to hedge against what's going on? So, very positive. All right. This is also very positive. So according to this, the craziest chart in crypto shows billions of dollars set to pour into Bitcoin. Okay. What is that chart? Well, the chart is Tether. And some of you guys may have noticed this, but Tether is still sitting at number 3, has a market cap of $15.6 billion. When Tether first went up from 4 to 8 billion, I talked about this, okay? And I'm like, Tether's supply went up, basically doubled. You're talking about billions, but Bitcoin didn't go up. But now you're going from 8 billion to 10 billion to 12 billion to 15 billion, all right? That's a lot. So if you look at this, and this is what this analyst is arguing, you look at what happened in 2019, 2017, right? When Tether supply increases, Bitcoin's price follows because people use that Tether for something, right? They don't just convert their USD to Tether for no reason. They're doing so because they plan on buying. And you could see the discrepancy here, right? In 2020, Tether keeps increasing and increasing at a dramatic rate, and Bitcoin's price has not moved. So this analyst is arguing when this does flow into Bitcoin, the top dogs or whales, they could be accumulating, getting money ready, because if they dump this into BTC, that's when BTC is going to start flying back to 2019 highs or 2018 highs, I should say, and beyond that, right? So I actually tend to agree with this. Now, I do agree with Tether is not, still has a shady history. Let's just leave it at that, right? Don't know if they really have everything backed like they say they do. But That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. They're still being looked at too. They're still being investigated, so I don't think they could do a lot of shenanigans at this point. So when this does pour into Bitcoin, I think it's going to be very, very, very positive. So, yeah. D40 is just talking a lot. All right, I'm just gonna put you in a timeout a little bit because I think you're just bombarding the chat. So I'm gonna put you in timeout a little bit. Let's see if you cool it. All right, so I apologize for that. Checking the chat. All right, so yeah, so we'll have to see, right? I've been waiting for Tether, that money, to come into Bitcoin for a while. Hasn't happened yet, but if it does, and it comes on really suddenly, and it just pours in, you know what's going to happen, right? Just like in 2017, Bitcoin went from 6,000 to 20,000 within a month and a half. Maybe we see Bitcoin go from 11,000 to 20,000 just as quick. Maybe even faster, because if you look at how much Tether grew in 2017, it didn't grow like this. It didn't grow anywhere like this. So it could be a different animal this time around. All right, what else? Here we go. Bitcoin's price breaks 11,000. Crypto traders are optimistic. Yes, anytime Bitcoin has a good day, it goes up. Why did Bitcoin plunge in 2000? Or why did Bitcoin plunge in October, though, if everything's so good? Well, according to this author, it's because of what the CFTC and Department of Justice, basically what they did, or going after BitMEX, right? And speaking of BitMEX, so Arthur Hayes is on the flee. I don't know if you guys know that. So out of the founding members of BitMEX, only one got arrested, Samuel Reed, and now he posted bond after signing a $5 million unsecured appearance bond. So he has been, he was arrested, he got released, right? And he's waiting for trial. But his buddies, like Arthur Hayes, Ben Delio, Gregory Dyer, they were all indicted and they remain at large, which means there's actually an arrest warrant for them. So you know how Arthur Hayes and some of these other guys, they were, after this came out, they were still tweeting like, try to get us. We're still gonna operate. These guys are on the run right now. This is pretty serious, and it doesn't help that they didn't turn themselves in after one of their counterparts got arrested. So we'll see what happens, but we know that money has been flowing out of BitMEX for a while now. If you still have your money on BitMEX, you should get it out now. I mean, they are going to be shut down, especially with all the top guys now on the run. And who knows if this trial continues on, they get charged, they could face some serious jail time. Last time I heard, if you're involved in money laundering or you don't have money services license or something like that, you could face up to 10 years in jail. Pretty serious stuff. And John McAfee recently was also arrested by Department of Justice and IRS for failing to pay taxes. And the SEC is also going after him. I haven't heard any update on that, but we'll see. This is pretty serious stuff. So, so if you're not out of BitMEX, you should. You really should. All right. Lastly, I guess let's look at CMC. Now, I myself have been really down for the past few weeks because of altcoins, and I still am. BT's dominance have jumped up to 58.2%. So over the course of the last 2-3 weeks, Bitcoin we know was hovering, going sideways, but altcoins were getting decimated, and it wasn't a good feeling. But today, somewhat of a little recovery, but still hasn't really made up for everything. But it's a start. Let's see if this can continue on. Sometimes, quite honestly, sometimes holding on alts just like make you feel like what am I doing, right? Why am I holding all these alts when they keep dropping 10, 15, 20%, 30%, 40%, while BTC just holds steady, right? But then there are days like today where BTC is up a good 2%, 3%, 4%, and some of these alts are doubling, tripling right now, right? But alts have been really weak. So I do think that is a concern, right? For a few months of this year, it seemed like we were in a mini altcoin season. A lot of altcoins started going up in a big fashion, right? It turned a lot of people attention to altcoins. But recently, there's been a drain. And it's not like a quick dump. It's a slow drain. Like I know you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like little percent here and there, here and there, and there. And it's starting to drain out. And I don't know if this is going to be, I don't know if this is going to continue or not, right? As we're nearing the end of the year, going to 2021, Bitcoin should have some momentum and start moving forward, meaning upwards. It should carry the altcoins. But the fact that altcoins have been so weak recently, it gets me a little concerned. I'm a little concerned about altcoins, but it's not time to panic yet. It's not time to get all out yet. There's still good buying opportunities. In fact, my last video, I said good buying opportunity to look into VET, because VET was really decimated. But a lot of these other ones too, like Chainlink was in the $8 range. I never thought it would be breaking below 10. And some of these other ones that are just really, really low, like Cardano was hovering about 12, 14 cents. Once upon a time, it went down as low as 8 cents again. Now it's climbing up a little bit. So a lot of these are showing a lot of weakness. So I guess my point is, you got to pay attention, right? Pay attention to what's going on. You got to spot these trends. Right now, the trend is kind of with BTC right now. So be careful a little bit. All right. I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if you guys have any specific questions. Let's just do Q&A and go from there. Tube special. Thank you for that. It's been forever. Sorry for the absence. Here's some Friday cheddar in honor for 11K. I appreciate it. I'll use it to buy some lunch. Thank you. What are you talking about, Pump It? No YouTuber wants to talk about Hex because it's an absolute shit coin. And just look at your name, Pump It. I mean, your whole purpose is to get attention to yourself, and you just want people to pump Hex. I will never do that. It's an absolute shitcoin. It's going to end in disaster, and I hope you come to your senses and get off of it, and stop joining people's session to try to tease them or egg them on to talk about Hex. I don't. That Mr. T, that's a good question. Do you think the SEC will go after Uniswap? No, I don't think so, because they're a facilitator. Although, with that said, the SEC doesn't really care. SEC does care about money transmitters. Okay, so unless they deem DEXs, where you're facilitating buying and selling, right? And I don't know. That's a good one. I know Coinbase is invested. There's a few others that's invested in Uniswap. So that's a good question, whether or not they will. I don't know if the SEC and Department of Justice, they're forcing all the U.S.-based exchanges to do KYC and stuff. Uniswap obviously is not doing that, but I don't know. They know, where Uniswap is really located, who the founders are. I don't know if they're going to go after them, to be honest. But I think Uniswap as a whole, I know people just see it, and I did too. Like Uniswap, a DEX is just being used for pump and dumps right now. But look at the other side, right? It's taking power away from the centralized changes. For a long time, people said they don't want to depend on Coinbase and Binance and these big guys, right? Because they have done some shady things. How do you take power away from centralized exchanges? You go to a decentralized exchange, right? Like Uniswap. But unfortunately, right now, Uniswap is popular because you got a lot of yield farming projects that's popping up left and right. People are trying to get into it. But now, more than ever, you got to pay attention because a lot of these are just pure scams. Pure scams. There's one that I just covered recently where after you deposit, even if you take your money out, their smart contract has a backdoor into your private key. So there's a user that lost $140,000 because that project just stole all his crypto after the fact. So you just got to be careful. But anyways, I don't know. I can't answer that question, but I do think, DEXs, even though they're used for pump and dumps right now, they serve a purpose. And that is to take power away from the centralized exchanges. And I think that's good. More competition, the better. Thoughts on VeChain? You guys know, even my last, I just did a video 3 days ago. You guys need to start watching my videos. I said it was a good time to actually look at VeChain. I said I was going to pick up some, and I did, because VeChain is one of those companies, never ending good news about the people or partnerships that they form. But even from the chart perspective, like this, right? They hit a support, and it looks like they want to move up. So, when I made a video, it's right around here. So I think VeChain is definitely a project you want to hold long term. That's all I can say about it. Band? I don't know about Band, man. I was big on Band because they're listed on some big exchanges like Coinbase. Also, they're the second biggest Oracle play in town, right? But then they just lost a lot of momentum because of this rumor that they were involved with SushiSwap, and then a lot of these protocols that they're hooked up with are not really partner up with them anymore, because they're doing their own and stuff like that, right? So Band lost a lot of momentum. So I don't know if they're going to come back. Hopefully they do. I still own some Band, but I don't know. They've lost a lot of momentum within a very short amount of time. I was really hoping that they build upon that, but right now they're not. And even Chainlink is weak because overall DeFi, this DeFi craze is cooling down, at least from a pump perspective. If you look at how much locked-in value there is, that hasn't gone down at all. Look at it, it's still around 11 billion. So people that are using DEXs and stuff like that, lending, they're still around, right? But in terms of like the coins that's associated with DeFi that has pumped a lot, they have been cooling off. And Band is also involved with DeFi because they provide Oracle service. So they're also caught in that trap too. So we'll see. We'll see if Band could come back up. But right now, in my opinion, with Chainlink around $10, and it was under $10, I think that was a lot more attractive than buying Band at $7. Blade Runner, George, do you feel crypto fatigue? I'm in it for 3 years now. Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Up until recently, I've been doing videos every day, right? And there's just days there's nothing to talk about. So that's why I changed my format. Because, yeah, sometimes it's just boring, right? And sometimes when you're holding on a lot of altcoins and you check your portfolio every day and you see it go down 10% every day, yeah, fatigue hits in, right? But you got to, the way I do it at least, the way I do it is, you know what? I try to keep myself occupied with other things, right? Because I'm not just going to sit around and check my portfolio every 5 minutes like I used to. There's just no point to that. You're stressing yourself out. And I'm not going to spend every single moment, trying to find ways to justify something, because sometimes things just happen. Things just go up or down, right? So what I'm doing is I'm holding, right? I watch it every so often within the day, keep myself occupied, and life continues on, right? Not try to stress myself so much. There's still some people that do that, and I don't know how they could do it after 3 years. Maybe because that's just how their life is, or they got in later. I don't know, but sometimes you just gotta step back, or you just go drive yourself crazy. Flip, man, that's a big buy. That's a big buy. 5 BTC. Congratulations. Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's interesting stuff, right? Like I think today's announcement by Square, I think this is pretty interesting. Um, I've always theorized when what's that project? When Pundi, okay? When Pundi was still popular and people were talking about it, and people keep asking me, okay, what do you think? They have this system where people could get these dongles or whatever, and vendors can start using them and take crypto and stuff. I'm like, it's not gonna work. First of all, they only ship 5,000 units, and who knows how many of them are being used. Second of all, you have like a powerhouse like Square, right, with Jack Dorsey at the helm, who's so Bitcoin bullish. It's just a matter of time. Square moves fully into crypto, or at least Bitcoin. So I think this is a big move. They're testing the waters. They're following the footsteps of MicroStrategy, because MicroStrategy did it and it was seen as a positive thing. And now they're doing it. But the next move for Square is to enable Bitcoin payments, and I think it's very easy for them to do so. And once they do, that's going to be a big thing for Bitcoin too. So I'm waiting for that. Yeah. So right now, if you're buying Square stock, you're kind of like buying a Bitcoin company, almost like a Bitcoin play, right? Of course, they're huge with, facilitating credit card transactions, but really, I think the end game is Jack Dorsey's going to convert them slowly into a Bitcoin play, and basically a Bitcoin transaction company, not just a credit card transaction company. So, yeah, I like Square. I actually do own Square stock, just so you guys know. Full disclosure. Because I do like them, and I do like Jack Dorsey. And I think he's pushing that for Twitter, too. He said the same thing with Twitter, that he wants to create a decentralized version of Twitter. And I truly believe that. I truly believe he wants to do that. So we'll see. We'll see. But it's not so easy. You can't just, all of a sudden say, okay, everything's going to become decentralized tomorrow. He has shareholders to worry about and stuff like that. But I think slowly he can start turning features on within Twitter that is decentralized, such as storage, right? And then slowly transist over. I think that's perfectly possible. Revo, appreciate that. Your house all electric. Did you buy the solar? Did you buy the Tesla power wall and power chargers and everything because you own the Tesla? Is that the reason why? Because I was looking into it. I was looking because there's so much ads about solar panels, and I was looking into it. You get a federal credit, 26% back. It was 30, now it's 26% before the end of the year, and then there's state incentives, right? But even adding all that up, it still pays I don't know, only half. It doesn't pay it fully. So the recovery time I calculate based on my current bill is still gonna be 11 years. And I'm like, man, I don't know. Do I want to spend 11 years worth of money right now up front and get free electricity afterwards, or just don't worry about it? So that's why I haven't made such moves. And then plus, I think solar panels on rooftops just look ugly. They're really, really ugly. With everyone home, I sold solar energy 3x what I was quoted. What does that mean? You paid 3x than what you expected? No, I live out of town and don't have propane. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. You're getting 3x back, 3x back more returns. So, what is your payback time? Is it still like 11 years or is it like 3 years? Because if it's like 3 years, it would be really worth it. It's all a gamble, like Crypto Massive One says. Well, I guess that's kind of true. It's all a gamble. Any kind of investment is a gamble. Revo, what do you think about DAI? Start with a solar phone charger. I get asked DAI a lot, and somehow I don't know why I can't remember what they do. So DAI is on Binance, so that's pretty good. Market cap 13.7 million, that's pretty low. Verified and transmitted oracles for DeFi economy. So okay, they're in the DeFi space. I don't know. Logos and founder picks. Why do I need to know? Why do I need to download founder picks? I just need to know who the founders are, not their picks. I can't really say. I mean, it looks fine. It looks like an Oracle play, but Oracle plays are hard. If you think about oracles, I think of the same way as like a first mover's advantage is a very big thing with oracles. Okay, because if you're a DeFi company and you need to have 100% verified and scalable price data, right? Are you go trust a newcomer like DAI, or you go trust Chainlink? Because Chainlink is already established. It already has price feeds. It's scalable. It's been attacked and they held off. So they have proven themselves, right? And if you're a DEX or a DeFi company or a lending company that really needs to have that reliable data, you're going to go with one of the big boys, not with one of the newcomers. With that said, not everyone wants to have Chainlink dominate the market, so there's always going to be competition, right? But it's gonna be tough competing with Chainlink, and you got a lot of these Oracle plays that's popping up left and right. So that's about it. I can't really comment specifically on DAI. Where's their leaders? Maybe if they had their leaders up, I could at least look at their leadership. They seem to be making some partnerships. Yeah, I don't know. Nothing significant here. Did I forget about BiDAO? No, I did not. I've talked about BiDAO. The biggest thing I don't like about BiDAO is the leader, is the founder. He looks like an 18-year-old kid that has no clue in terms of how to run a company or how to manage a company's people or finances. So I have big concerns about that. But yeah, I mean, it was very hyped up. A lot of people invested. And I'm just going to say something that really annoys me. Whenever I have someone contact me, it's just out of the blue. So there was a person that just contacted me on Twitter. I saw that he only started following me recently, and he, it always starts the same. hey George, longtime follower. I really appreciate what you do. It's always like that. And then it's like, I have something I really need to tell you. Can you DM me? And I'm like, why can't you just share it? What do you have that's so important? He's like, oh, I just want to thank you, and there's some good information I want to tell you because it's go help you. I'm like, okay, whatever. So, I'm like, okay, I DM him. I'm like, okay, so what do you need? What do you need to tell me? And then he's like, oh, I need you to check out ByteDAO because it's such an awesome project. I'm not a founder or associated with the team, but you need to look into them. And I'm like, it's not like a hidden secret. ByteDAO, everyone talks about them. So why do you need to DM me to say that? Why can you just not reply to me on my tweet? So it really irritates me because it's always the same thing. When I talk to people on Twitter or email or whatever, when they, like, especially email too, projects contact me, they're like, okay, I want to do this, and I'm like, okay, and they're like, okay, let's move our conversation to Telegram. You know what ends up happening during Telegram? That's when, because they don't want a trail, that's when they tell you, oh, we want you to do this and this and this. We don't want you to say we're sponsored. We don't want you to do this. We want you to shill the project. Like, whenever I hear someone say, okay, let's take our conversation to Telegram, or okay, let me DM you, right? That's when I know I'm gonna hear something I don't like, and it really, really aggravates me. So I just thought I would share that story because there's a lot of people that wants ByteDAO to do well because a lot of people invest in the ICO, and because it's associated with Binance, and Tron. So what could go wrong, right? Maybe they do go up to the moon, but when I looked into the project, you look at the leader, the quirky 18-year-old kid, and you look at some of the videos he's done on YouTube, it's going to make you change your mind about investing in this company. So just look up the videos that he had posted so far on YouTube. I wish him luck. I do wish him luck, but it's not a project I would invest my money in. Chainlink fees can be up to $90 per query, not sustainable long term. Well, that is their weakness. Not so much themselves, but Ethereum, because they're contracting Ethereum right now. That's where, and that's a good point. That some of these other companies, they have a leg up, and that's another reason I forgot about Band is because they are working with other protocols, so it's not necessarily tied up with Ethereum. So that could be their advantage, but Chainlink can expand beyond Ethereum if they wanted to, right? I haven't heard them talk about expanding outside of that. So, but that's a good point, though. Good point. I've invested in ByteDAO. I did get my coins. However, I know others that have not received their coins and they're being told their transactions are scams. How? How would their transaction be scams? That's interesting. John, the reason why people don't give up on Ethereum is because they still continue to have the biggest development base, the developers, the development tools. It's still there. People still believe in Vitalik. That's the thing. He is like a whiz kid, and people believe that he can scale Ethereum. That is why people are not giving up Ethereum. So that is why projects on Ethereum are still doing well. But if he can't, and I've said this before, him and Joseph Lubin, they went on stage. I forgot what conference, and they said the original thought was always to create Ethereum as a test bed to see if they can do smart contracts, but they knew it couldn't scale. So they were always planning on, and they still plan on coming out with a true Ethereum 2. Okay, and that gets confused with what's going on with Ethereum right now, because Ethereum right now is converting to Ethereum 2, but that's really just talking about proof of stake and scaling, right? But what they were referring to is Ethereum 2 as a brand new blockchain that's built from the start that can scale basically infinitely. And I think they're still working on that on a back burner because that was only said, I think that was said within this year. It wasn't even last year. So the two gets intermixed and people get confused, right? So we'll see. if Vitalik can truly scale Ethereum, move to proof of stake, get Plasma or Sharding, get whatever going, right? Then these projects will be fine. But there's also second layer solutions that's built to help, Ethereum scale, right? Projects can utilize those too, but then you're kind of utilizing another network, so you have to trust that that network's good. But case in point, OMG network, they're a scaling solution for Ethereum, and Tether moved their entire operations to OMG. So I would say if OMG can handle Tether transactions, they can handle basically any transaction, right? So that's the thing. Like Chainlink can move to OMG too, and then not have to worry about crazy fees. So that's always an option. But I think people don't want to give up on Ethereum just yet. But if they continue to delay and not scale, eventually, yes, projects will move away from Ethereum. Phil? That's probably true. That's probably true, Phil. That's very true. uh John, yeah. I yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you can pivot, right? Maybe not from an architect standpoint, but from a project standpoint, you could definitely pivot. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I've always said, people always ask me before, when people used to ask me a lot about Ethereum, I've always said I'm neutral or even bearish on Ethereum because I don't think they can scale. They haven't been able to scale for the last 3 years. And even moved to, I think this promise of moving to moving to proof of stake can immediately scale them. That's not accurate at all. Moving to proof of stake only raises the transaction count by like 30. They go from like 15 to like 50. That's it. They don't scale at all with the move. So they still have to work on the scaling solution after that. So there's a lot to work on. I don't know, John. I think a lot of people, at first, like proof of stake didn't even really exist, or it was in its infancy. So before, when people came out with a token, it was always proof of work, because you look at Bitcoin and it's running proof of work, right? But I don't know if a lot of these guys actually really thought that their project was going to grow to this scale. I don't know if Vitalik and Charles and all these other guys really thought Ethereum was going to grow. I think maybe they just thought it was a pet project. It could do well. Maybe it was a money grab at first. They just want to make some money and that's it. But it grew to where it is, right? But you have to play the hand you're dealt. They chose proof of work. Now they have to get away from it. So, you can't just give up. Like, you can't be Vitalik and like, okay, bye-bye. I'm not going to be working on Ethereum anymore. You can't do that. Never researched in detail why REN is accessible on UK Coinbase Pro. What makes REN a conflict to this new FCA ruling? It's not accessible. Derivatives. I mean, anything that's deemed to be a security, where the token was basically offered in exchange for promise of profit, security, or some kind of money laundering kind of thing, because that's a big thing now, right? So I don't know. I don't know why. There's a lot of projects that's like that. It's listed overseas but not here because of the same thing. Because honestly, most tokens listed is a security. And even though they're deemed utility coins, which they could be, but they're being sold as a security because the company is selling them to profit off of them so they can survive, right? Unless you're like Uniswap and you just airdrop it to everyone for free, right? Then you can't say it's a security because no one's paying for it. But basically everyone else, where they held the ICO, IEO, wherever, they're really all securities because they were all sold, and people buying it had the expectations of making money from it. That's it. Otherwise, why would they buy it, right? So it's kind of tough call. Kind of tough call. Even Ethereum was like that. I mean, they held the ICO, but somehow, they were deemed a non-security by the CFTC. So strange. All right, guys. What else? What else? Any chat about anything? It's your time, guys. Roger, thank you. Mike, I don't know what polls is. Let's take a look. Polka starter. Why? Why? Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna look at anything that's basically only on Uniswap. Sorry, because there's just way too many pump and dumps and scams that's being listed on Uniswap right now. So. What about XRP? XRP is actually, jokes aside, XRP is actually doing pretty well compared to their recent, I should say their 2020 performance. They're above 25 cents, closing on 30 cents again. So they pretty much just held. They haven't really dipped that much recently, at least. But yeah, they've been paying for the last 3 years. But 2020, a little bit better, little bit better. I don't like Singularity. I don't like Singularity at all. And people don't like my answer because they're concentrating on data marketplace for AI. And first of all, I don't think, well, let's just put it this way. I think it's too early. Let's just put it that way. I think it's too early for AI. I just think, I don't know. I just think it's too early for that right now. That's all. Nulls is interesting. I had a conversation with them recently. And they have this one main developer that basically created microservices. And he worked on a lot of stuff. His name is Berserk. I think it's Berserk. And Nulls have separated in terms of they have a whole Western team versus a China team. And they're basically letting the Western team take over marketing for the West. So Nulls plans on doing a big marketing push pretty soon. It could be end of 2020, moving into 2021. Nulls has been sitting on a back burner, right? They've been developing. They basically have everything now. They have Nerve Network, which can do cross-chain transactions. So, for example, they can cross-chain. They can talk to Ethereum. So, DeFi projects on Ethereum that wants to move their assets somewhere else because it's too congested can use Nerve and go into Nulls. That's something that a lot of big companies are trying to, still perfect. Nulls has that. They have their own DEX. It's early, but they have that, right? And they have a Generation 3 protocol. They have Chain Factory. Basically, anyone could utilize it and modularize any smart contract or dApp that they want to. They have a lot of stuff. So they're really looking to market. So I'm talking to them about that. But I think Nulls they could be making some big moves in 2021 once they start marketing and people realize what they have. Because right now it's just like no one really pays attention to some of these old projects that has fallen so low. They're like, they're dead. But no, some of them actually are still executing and coming out with new features and stuff, but people just aren't paying attention. So Nulls could have a pretty good 2021. I have been to Amsterdam, but it was so long ago. So I don't even recall. It was more when I was like a kid. So I didn't explore for myself or do anything crazy. Mike, you made the argument with me before. If let's just put it this way, and I'm not trying to pick on you, but if you're not too busy with life and you are able to get in on all these, are you a millionaire already? It's just there's too much of new hot promising coins that promises to make everyone millionaires, and they all end up not doing it, right? I'm sticking with what I know, putting in a few new coins that looks promising, but I'm not just going to be jumping in anything that is hot at the moment. Do you think passwordless login with decentralized authentication at the back end to make it hackable? What? What do you mean? To make it unhackable? Is that what you're saying? YK? Crypto Frog, yes, thank you. Appreciate that. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that always, focus on a lot of these new upcoming projects, which some can turn out to be really good. And there are ones that have made huge gains. So I'm not trying to just diss all these new projects altogether, right? And I know a lot of people view something like Bitcoin being 11,000, you just can't become a millionaire from it anymore, because even if it goes up 10x, if you put $1,000 in, it only becomes 10,000. That $1,000 is not going to become $1 million, right? I get it. There's a lot of people that only want that promise of high returns really quickly. But more often than not, the promise of that kind of returns ends up losing you more money. And I know a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So high risk goes both ways. High risk, meaning high rewards, can turn into high losses. Let's put it that way. So you just got to be careful, I guess. Just for me, it takes me a while to look at something and actually see that they're actually doing something, that their price could actually hold, that they're not just pumping up for a few days or a few weeks, but that they can actually last for 6 months or a year, and can last through like a crypto winter or week periods, right? So there's a lot of things I look at like that. ETH will scale if they are protected. That will outperform ETH. ETH will just, ETH most resilient coin, I guess. I don't know if they're the most resilient coin, and I don't know if they could just copy other people's features, because it's not that easy to just upgrade Ethereum like that. There's a lot of miners to worry about, and you have to get their consensus to approve an upgrade. But they are resilient because they do still have the largest developer base and tools and money, you could argue. But a lot of these projects, like I didn't research Polkadot enough before, but Polkadot, just like Cardano, they're started by a Ethereum co-founder, and Polkadot is started by Gavin Wood, which arguably is like the most technical guy from Ethereum. I don't know him and Vitalik. I don't know who's more technical, but if you look at, he was a CTO. He created a lot of things for Ethereum. I think he wrote the yellow paper for smart contracts, and he also developed something else. Maybe he developed their proof of work consensus. I don't know. If you look into Gavin Wood, very impressive resume, and that's why Polkadot is actually doing well, because he has a lot of support from the Ethereum community. And same thing, Cardano will too, once they're fully operational. So yeah, Ethereum is the biggest right now, but a lot of these other players, they're right behind. They're not going to let their foot off the gas. They're trying to catch up. Hello, Austin. Welcome for tuning in. CryptoKitties. I haven't heard anyone talk about CryptoKitties in a long time. I don't know if they're still around. Remy, they have a working solution for passwordless login on an app store. Okay. Pretty good. Pretty good. And then I'm just trying to think, how does that work? Right now, passwords are hackable, definitely. But if you layer in a 2FA solution, it's really hard to crack that. But then you can make the argument a 2FA solution is from a centralized entity, so maybe that's bad. So I guess you could look at it that way. What is USDC? It's a stable coin created by Coinbase. It's not just them. A lot of some other exchanges use them. That's why it's USDC. All right, VR, come on. You don't have to keep 8 hours. Just sounds like a horrible name. Yeah, I'm not gonna look at this. Not when they're on BitTrue as the only market or only exchange that's selling. That's even worse than being only listed on Uniswap. Tezos is hanging around. They were doing really well and then got really, really weak all of a sudden, and now they're just hanging around. I don't know how all of a sudden they just lost all their momentum. They were really gaining on some of these coins. But yeah, no longer the case. I don't know. I don't really hear much about Tezos. They have a good project, very similar to EOS. Better governance, you could argue. But, that's why they're kind of like very close to EOS, however you say it. They're very close, almost neck to neck, because they're pretty much the same thing. They're both proof of stake projects. Yeah. Yeah, if Tesla came out Tesla coin, that would shoot to probably number 2 overnight. I actually don't know why Elon doesn't come out with the crypto. He does have some issues with the SEC, so maybe that's it. But Tesla is like the perfect company to embrace their own crypto or embrace BTC. Not just Tesla, even SpaceX, right? Who's going to use fiat in Mars? I mean, honestly, right? You need a digital currency. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why Tesla doesn't embrace some kind of crypto. It just makes more sense for them, right? I mean, everything. You can make it so buying a Tesla requires you to use the Tesla crypto to make transactions. You're paying for internet service. I mean, you could use all that. The reward system. They have an affiliate system. You can make that all into Tesla crypto, and so many people will buy it. Like in terms of cult followings, I would say Tesla heads and BTC holders are pretty equal. I mean, it's hardcore. Like, and if you combine the two, it would be like the biggest cult following ever in history. Like, honestly, if he embraced, if Elon and Tesla embraced BTC, that would be like, man, that'd be crazy. That would be crazy. All right, guys. I'm going to end the stream. Getting a little hungry, losing my voice a little bit, so I'll let you guys go. So thanks for tuning in. BTC is looking pretty good today, over 11,000, mostly because of this very, very bullish news from Jack Dorsey's Square. Buys 1% of their entire reserves, puts it into Bitcoin. I think this will increase. I think that's going to increase to 100 million, 200 million, 300 million. They're probably going to follow in MicroStrategy's footsteps. Maybe go entirely in Bitcoin for their reserves. Who knows? But yeah, and also I think MicroStrategy really opens a Pandora's box. So now companies will think about doing this because not only does it boost their stock shares, but it's acceptable, right? I think MicroStrategy did it. People didn't really know what's going to happen with their stock price. Actually went up. So Square is doing it, and I think a lot of other companies wants to do it, not only to pump up their stock price, but also because they're genuinely worried about what's going on with what's going around the world right now, with the economies of the world, with the fiat printing and fears of inflation, all that stuff, right? Election time, is the broader market going to collapse? There's a lot of things to worry about, so it's a smart move. All right, guys, that's it. So thanks for tuning in. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you watch my daily, they're not daily anymore, but weekly videos. And stay tuned for my live session next week, same time, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. And hopefully, BTC will be a little bit higher by then. Oh, I have an important message, by the way, about XRP. So stay tuned for that and have a good weekend. All right? Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
What do you think about Ripple?
Well, I mean, I think it's too centralized, but I definitely want to meet Chris Larson.